Hello, welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of Free Speech, the Naturally United podcast, where we talk about issues, technologies, and nature that will affect generations on Earth for years to come. This one is of utmost importance. It is artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of different directions that you could go with a conversation about AI. What I'm looking to do with this video is to provide you guys with a bit of a base knowledge of what people are talking about when they say AI and the types of changes that we might see in our world as a result of computers beginning to think and become sentient. So, I guess the levels of AI that we will continually stage up to, I think, start from you got your autonomous vehicles, your robot taxi drivers, kind of the things that we're already seeing implemented now. So when you look at a Tesla, it is completely different than the cars that were sold on the road 20 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with the amount that the computer is thinking for you as a driver. And so I imagine this type of thing will affect everything that we currently do as people in 2020. But years down the road, it's going to look a lot different than just vehicles. So that's kind of the convenience level. And then you go one above that where AI is kind of becoming its own species. So it's social, it's sentient. We're creating devices that are almost indistinguishable from real humans and possibly entirely indistinguishable. A situation where maybe someone passes away and you take their brain and put it in a robot that looks exactly like them, that grows just like they would have grown, that's basically a mix between biology and technology. That's what we're kind of seeing the start of with our cell phones. If you were to talk to someone, let's say 20 years ago, maybe even 50 years ago, would they have believed that nearly every member of American society, every member of global society would be connected through devices that they carry with them at all times, that always know where you are? These ideas were very foreign to people, but now they're just parts of our everyday life. I think AI is going to be the exact same, where a lot of the things that maybe we're a bit afraid of today will be implemented regardless in the future, and everyone will kind of look past them, whether for good or for bad. I believe that that will be the trend that we'll see, just as we have with other technology. So you have convenience, species, and then infrastructure. This is where you get into government monitoring, military, space exploration using robots and computers. These, I think, are all very, very real changes that we aren't going to see tomorrow, but will be the direction that our technology goes. And so, what role does government play in this? How much control do people have over the privacy of their information? These are all questions that will be answered, I believe, in the coming years. So we can kind of see AI appearing in early literature, as in maybe Frankenstein a few hundred years ago, or even religious texts. But beyond that, it really didn't become something that people thought would affect their lives other than in the past 70 to 80 years. So you have the Church-Turing Thesis, which basically suggests that the entire world can be mapped out in ones and zeros and that we can make efficient decisions based on that knowledge. And then in 1943, you have McCulloch and Pitts, who design the artificial neurons. And basically, this is the first inclination that humans might be able to mold computers and people together, where we had them entirely separated up until then. And the computational abilities that we had in the 40s were obviously very minimal. To then, you go to 1956. At Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, you have John McCarthy, who basically coins the term artificial intelligence. And this would set the direction for the rest of AI's history. This will be the catalyst of AI when it's written about far, far in the future. So John kind of starts a team with people from Carnegie Mellon. He went to MIT. He had another person from MIT and then someone from IBM, and they create a computer that can play chess better than humans. And so their prediction was that within 20 years, most of what humans were doing could be replaced by computers. So they were wrong about the speed at which this would develop, but in reality, the trend that we're seeing is that what they saw as possible, that computers could replace humans in the menial tasks that we perform, that part is true. So, you look at up until World War II, there was a job at companies called the calculator. They would hand you math problems and you go out and do all the problems. Well, now, as you can assume, Pretty much everyone in America has a calculator readily available on them whenever they desire, and that's been the case for a long time. And so, if you were to talk to someone, let's say 100 years ago, who was a calculator, who got handed math problems, solved them, and handed it back, they would be astonished to see the access to technology that we have in our modern age, because it makes things that were difficult in the past seemingly incredibly easy. And so we're going to see that type of effect on a lot of the things that we're doing in 2020 years down the road as technology advances. Kind of the next stage in the proliferation of artificial intelligence was creating expert systems. So basically what an expert system is replicating the ability or maybe even the decision making of someone who's incredibly talented at something, and using a computer to make all those decisions, not only just at the level that they were at, but at a more efficient level that would be impossible for a human, because they simply can't consider all of the variables and nuances in the situation. And so, from there, we are 55 years past the term AI being coined. IBM, Watson wins in Jeopardy versus people who had won Jeopardy countless times. And then on top of that, our cell phones are now being developed with software that is rooted in artificial intelligence for the purpose of understanding what we are like, of what we like to spend our time looking at, of how we use our devices, of the types of people that we are, the types of decisions that we make, who we are socioeconomically. These are all being tracked by our cell phones. Now this, to someone 100 years ago, would seem like something from a science fiction book, but in reality this is the daily lives of our people. When you sign on to social media, there is data being collected about the things that you enjoy, about how long you look at everything, about where your eyes are going on the page. And these are giving us tangible perspectives into the way that people are. And whether or not that is a good thing, this is something that has been falling down the hill without the control of the people whose data are being collected. Now, something important to keep in mind, Facebook can't track your data if you don't have a Facebook account. In a way, in order to sign on and authorize all of the terms and conditions, you are, in a way, giving yourself up to whatever it was that was in that terms and conditions. But these are very, very new things that we haven't really made precautions for. And it happened, in less than 100 years. So we really haven't had enough time to see what we want the landscape of our artificial intelligence technology to be like while we have our children using it unknowingly. So here's a part that is super fascinating to me about artificial intelligence, is that in America, the largest tech corporations are prioritizing it beyond any other projects that I am aware of. Now, it doesn't mean that that's their main focus, but it means when they look to the future, they know that AI is going to be a part of the way that they do business. You take Apple, for example, they have a neural engine that is in the iPhone X, and that sort of deals with imaging and animation in a way that would have been impossible in the past. And then beyond that, you have Face ID when you're signing into the phone, and they are looking at the way that you speak and the motions that you make with that face camera to determine what you're like as a person. And while they use it for things that you'll probably be okay with, these are types of things that have not been going on for a while. And then, for example, Samsung's Bixby, where users can search images with voice command. They can even purchase items, translate words from language to language. These are things that would have been very difficult. Traveling to a foreign country a few hundred years ago was pretty much impossible, if not very, very difficult, whereas now we have the ability to communicate with people all over the world, anywhere, just by speaking with our phone as if it's a person. And then beyond that, here's one that really, really makes me proud of technology, because it goes to show that, this isn't all dystopian. There are things that can improve our daily lives that technology is bringing to the table. So Google, as of the past couple days in the start of 2020, has figured out how to use artificial intelligence technology to predict which patients in a hospital have breast cancer. And what the computer was able to pick out is cases of breast cancer where a doctor looking at the image might not have picked it up, but by looking at all the pictures and the patterns that we have from past data, we are able to determine people who have breast cancer and give them treatment much quicker than we would have in the past. Now here is where the privacy concerns come in. We have a situation where someone's medical information might be being used without their knowledge, but it's helping greater humanity. It's helping people, by the more cases of breast cancer you have, who have breast cancer in the future, to get cured. And so this is kind of the debate that we have with technology. Is it okay to use people's information that they have not authorized to give away if it means protecting people in the future and nothing negative happens to the person who gave their information away? But is it okay to allow that in terms of privacy? These are the types of questions that we should be asking ourselves when it comes to AI and it being a part of our everyday life. And this is kind of one of the things I'm a bit skeptical about because it's going to steal people's freedom, steal their privacy without their permission for the purpose of protecting people. But then where do you draw the line of what is okay and what is not okay? Who is going to be penalized? How do you penalize them? These are questions that we don't have anything close to the answer yet for, because it's not technology we've invented. But if we had police drones that could perfectly monitor a place, and if anything against the law happened, they would be there instantly recording it on video, our reality would be very different. And I think that's the world we're heading towards, and we need to prepare as a society by making sure that we have enough thresholds built up to protect ourselves from, let's say, the government using that technology to control people in a way that they don't authorize, or any number of things that could cascade, that could rabbit hole as a result of technology always watching us and constantly knowing what's going on the face of the planet. But one area I think that we all stand to benefit from is that artificial intelligence will allow humans to understand our environment in a way that we never have in the past. When it comes to renewable energy, we're going to be able to harness a lot more energy. For example, India is able to yield 30% more groundnuts just by using AI to track information about the fields. We're going to see innovations like that, but at a much, much larger scale, whether it be using robots to get to another area of space and allowing humans to extract different minerals from asteroids across the galaxy as a result of advanced artificial intelligence. I think that these are possible realities. So artificial intelligence has the ability to map forests, allowing data to reveal endangered trees. The IBM Green Horizon project, it monitors different pollution sources so that we can find where pollution is coming from and stop it. And then you have organizations like the Ocean Data Alliance where they can help invasive species. They know how many of them there are. We can protect coral and also just monitor ecosystems so that we understand more about what's going on with Earth's biodiversity. So there are kind of a number of ethical concerns that come to mind when I think about AI. As much as I think that it could really help the everyday life of people on Earth, I think that there are also a lot of privacy concerns that make a lot of sense. At the expense of our privacy, we can gain massive scientific advancements, we can feel much safer. If the tech goes rogue, though, it could mean the end of humanity. We know that there is a chance that artificial intelligence becomes so smart that they no longer need humans. Let's say in the future you have a situation where there are groups of AI that band together and use robot soldiers to end humanity. I do think that this is a possible reality and something that we should sort of set up regulations against to ensure that it doesn't happen. So these are kind of the three questions that I have about AI after having looked into it a lot, and trying to understand it deeply is difficult in 2020 because this is just the beginning of what we are going to see when it comes to the implementation of AI. So here's question one. I have three questions. If AI is the next step in human evolution, do we attempt to limit the power of computers? So, in other words, if computers are going to become powerful enough to kill us, do we set up walls so that they can't? And then two, how do we value privacy in relation to safety? Would we rather not die in an attack or keep our data to ourselves? And this is a difficult question to answer because sometimes people are going to reach too far into our pockets for that information. And then the third question that I have is, how do we prevent government from disregarding human freedoms and dignity? How do we keep our government from using this technology to do things that we all know that they shouldn't be? So I guess just sort of an ending point, humans have had 2,500 times as much time without computers as we have with computers. What will the world look like when we've had computers just as long as we have not had computers? We're just in the beginning of this revolution. I think that we're going to see a lot of positive changes. I think that life as a human will continue to get better, but if we're not careful, I think that artificial intelligence has a lot of pitfalls that could cause humanity to end, and beyond that, our quality of life to decrease if we don't set it up in the right way. So I'd love for this to spark conversation. If you have questions or ideas, leave them in the comments. If there's something that you want me to talk about in a future episode, feel free to leave it in the comments. This was episode 5 Free Speech, the Naturally United podcast, and I will see you guys very soon.